Hey howdy guys, Connor McCaskill here, bringing you another episode of Mini Review. No fluff, just stuff. Let's get into it. The brand new Osmo Pocket was just announced November 28th, 2018, and it's a really odd gimbal to say the least. I mean, just look at this thing. It is absolutely tiny. I mean, without any accessories, this thing clocks in at a whopping 0.26 pounds. Regardless of its appearance, this little guy packs a punch. It records at a variety of different frame rates and resolutions, including 1080p at 24 frames per second, 1080p at 30 frames per second, 1080p at 60 frames per second, 4K at 24 frames per second, 4K at 30 frames per second, and get this, 4K 60 frames per second up to 100 megabits per second. That's insane. In fact, the practically brand new Canon EOS R that just came out can't even do 4K at 60 frames per second. And if I'm not mistaken, neither can the Sony a7 III. That's super impressive for such a small camera, but it's not just a small camera. The Osmo Pocket is also a functioning gimbal. The Osmo Pocket has three main gimbal modes. The first one is first-person view, locking it to facing forward pretty much at all times, no matter which way you tilt it. Follow mode, which slowly turns the gimbal in the direction of your tilt. And tilt lock, which does what it says. It locks the tilt. It makes it to where the gimbal stays in one place even if you tilt it down or up. Also, if you take the gimbal and rotate it 90 degrees, it enters what is a portrait mode or a story mode. Basically, that means that it just records sideways. If you continue to rotate the gimbal all the way upside down, it enters what is called an undersling mode. The undersling mode on the Osmo Pocket allows you to get especially close to the ground. This is permitting you to get some epic shots that you otherwise couldn't get. Did you beep at me? Quit that. The Osmo Pocket comes equipped with a little bitty 1.08 inch touchscreen. Although it is a very small screen, it is surprisingly easy to use. Swiping down on the screen brings up your aspect ratio, your settings, your brightness, and your image quality screens. If you swipe towards the right, it brings up your video and photo files. If you swipe to the left, it allows you to toggle between photo and video mode, and swiping up will allow you to adjust your following speed, gimbal modes, recentering, and switch in and out of selfie mode. While in selfie mode, the camera actually enables face tracking. Face tracking on this gimbal is actually really cool. It not only tracks your face to correct focus, but the gimbal actually attempts to keep your head in the center of the frame at all times, which is pretty awesome. Basically, this means if I'm moving the camera left or right, the gimbal head swivels to keep me centered in the frame. However, face tracking is disabled if you shoot 4K at 60 frames per second, which is a little bit unfortunate, but oh well. Now, if you do find it really hard to see what you're doing on this tiny little 1.08 inch screen, with a little accessory, you can actually plug your phone directly into the gimbal. The DJI Osmo Pocket uses an app called the DJI Mimo. What a weird name, Mimo, Finding Mimo? It makes me think of Finding Nemo for some reason. Finding Mimo. Anyways, the Mimo app basically functions like the DJI drone apps, if you've ever used those before. Basically, it acts as a monitor and it allows you to adjust all of your gimbal settings within the phone app itself. This includes switching between your manual and automatic mode, which allows you to fully adjust your ISO and shutter speed, all of your gimbal tracking settings, also your image quality, such as frame rate, resolution, and whether you want to shoot in the fine mode, which is lower megabits per second, or super fine mode, super fine, which allows you to shoot up to 100 megabits per second. The last thing I'm going to talk about today is this little dial accessory that attaches directly to the Osmo Pocket. This dial essentially gives you more functionality without having to plug in your phone. This little dial allows you to control your vertical and horizontal tilt actions. Also, it has a quick access button to selfie mode and another button which allows you to switch between follow, first person view, and tilt lock mode, which is dandy. Now, as of the time of this recording, the Osmo Pocket has yet to be announced, so I actually don't know what DJI is planning on selling these things for. If I do learn what the price is before this gimbal is announced, I will put it up on the screen now. Nevertheless, if this gimbal is fairly priced, then I think they'll sell like hotcakes, which is a weird analogy to this. I don't think I've ever bought hotcakes, pancakes. Anyways, it's just incredible to have a literal gimbal in your pocket wherever you go. Also, the audio and image quality that this gimbal can produce is good enough to record an entire vlog, no problem. It's also going to be incredibly useful for recording Instagram stories on the aptly named story mode. Also, if you lean more on the pro side of video, I would still suggest buying one if they are fairly priced, at least as a backup gimbal. I mean, literally a gimbal in your pocket. Super nifty. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this mini review on the brand new Osmo Pocket. Make sure to keep commenting down below on what videos you'd like to see from me in the future. I have seen your guys' comments on me making more M50 specific video, so I will be working on one of those in the future. Just be patient with me. This isn't my only job. I edit for another YouTube channel, and now I'm also a podcast editor, so yeah. Regardless, guys, I'm Connor McCaskill, and as always, thanks for hanging.